Welcome to the Mike Frederick Show on 1490 WBCB, presented by Aria Health. I'm Sean Lerman, along with head coach of the Neshaminy Redskins, Mike Frederick. Coach, how's it going?
Not bad, thank you.
The team, a tough loss this past week up at Penn Ridge, 21-14. And I think last week when you guys had the win, a large part of that was the crowd behind you with homecoming. Penn Ridge, their first ever game at their new stadium. Did you feel like their crowd was really into it?
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere. I think those are the types of environments you want to play in, whether you're at home or on the road. A lot of stuff going on outside of the football game, and I thought our players handled it quite well. I mean, they didn't get caught up in the distractions. There were changes in the pregame routine, and it didn't affect our play on the field, and I was proud of that.
Early in the game, Penn Ridge goes up 14-0, but then you guys charged right back, and it started with that huge 76-yard touchdown run from DeAndre Pollard.
Yeah, it was a terrific effort all the way around, and if you look, the hustle down the field, the blocks inside the 10-yard line for our guys getting down there, helping lead them into the end zone. Phenomenal play. We need more of those types of plays. It really was a key point in the ball game. I mean, they had gone up by a couple of scores, and we know football is a game of momentum swings. We've talked about since preseason that there's going to be times where you're up 14, you're down 14, and that not to let that impact the remainder of the game. And it was a key play at the moment to get us back in it, give us a chance to win.
On that run in particular, 40 yards downfield, there were multiple receivers still staying with the play and blocking. I mean, how great is it to have receivers that aren't afraid to get mixed up and do some blocking?
That's what you want to see, and you can't break big runs. And DeAndre would be the first one to tell you, you can't break them without your receivers being downfield blocking, right? You need the linemen to get you through the box, the core of the defense. But you're not going to go 70, 80 yards if you don't have receivers down there doing their jobs. And they expect him to be running 40 yards down the field. So, but it was great to see their effort. And DeAndre in particular was someone who saw that was that was part of how he was able to get into the end zone. So a great effort on the play all the way around. And then DeAndre, obviously a special talent, made a couple of moves at the end that were just phenomenal. But we were play away, and we needed two more of those.
Yeah, at any level of football, that was one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen that DeAndre made. The second touchdown that you guys scored, another interception return for a touchdown for J.R. Stevens. Is this starting to become a trend here, that J.R. is going to be running them back?
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope that continues. It's rare. I mean, defensive scores are, you hopefully get a couple a year. They tend to swing the outcome of football games. We know the statistics behind getting a defensive score or a special team score. And that was a big play in the game. It sort of at that point felt as though we had taken their best shot, and we responded. And to get it back to 14-all, I think everybody on our sideline felt as though the game was going to be ours to lose from that point forward.
I think those types of interceptions are also a credit to you guys on the coaching staff, working with JR and seeing tendencies that he's able to jump these routes.
Well, Coach French and Coach Weinball, they actually dialed up a blitz on the play. It was a well-designed defensive play. It was a good call. So the defensive staff made a good call on it, thinking that he was going to be in a passing situation. It put us in an advantageous position. Now JR then has to execute, and that's where just the God-given ability that he has enabled him to make the play on the tape. I think Coach Ennis, as a receiver, saw it before anybody. As soon as he saw him turn and throw a wide side hitch, knowing that JR was going to be out there and man coverage with the blitz dialed up, you see him jump up and down like he had passes halfway in the air. And it took the rest of us another split second to realize that JR was going to get there in time. Great play. It took the momentum back in our favor, and unfortunately, they responded with a 70-yard kickoff return that it was one of the impact plays of the game.
On Penn Ridge's side of things, they had the two running backs that had pretty good games for them, particularly Hirsch, the one big guy, 210 pounds at least. How did you guys manage over the course of the game to deal with Hirsch being such a big back?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily the size of the runner. I think they did a nice job running the ball. In general, the wing T misdirection it's a difficult offense to defend in high school. What happens in the college level and the pro level is that people are unblocked in that offensive scheme. They leave you unblocked, thinking that you're not going to be able to play assignment football and you're going to go to the wrong guy. We have more time in college. You can rep it in college, and they're offenses don't change as much from week to week. I mean, if the guy blocks down and you're unblocked, you're going to crush the guy, right? We wouldn't get through a whole season if you tried to do that in college. They executed well. They had some nice time shovel passes, and our defense, it was sort of a bend but don't break day for us. Our defense kept us in the game. They got us the 7 points, and then we gave up way too many yards. But then they'd get down to the 10, the 15, and we would sort of bow up and stop them and get a turnover on downs or another interception in the end zone or a missed field goal. And it sort of felt like if we could just get that one or two key plays to go our way in the second half, it was going to be our football game.
That was definitely one thing that I noticed. So one more question before we take a break. The goal line defense was outstanding. You talk about that bend, don't break. What is it about this defense that they were able to really make so many stops inside the 20?
Yeah, it's a good question. We don't emphasize, we don't want to bend but don't break defense, right? I mean, that's not the ultimate goal. Is we had given up 12 to 14 what we would call impact plays, which is 15 yards or more. We also had 12 to 14 negative plays to 1 or 2 yard plays, right? So the inconsistency is the frustrating part as a coach, and I'm sure it is for the players as well. Once we got down by the goal line, our guys make plays, and I'm not sure if that, the fact that it gets harder in the red zone because the field gets reduced. So any kind of vertical threats are taken out, and it is harder for most teams to score once you get down that far. I was proud of the fact that we tightened up and toughened up and made plays, made big tackles, pushed them back once we got down there, and we really responded well. And again, if you look at, with the exception of, the first drive of the game where they went 84 yards, and, that first drive of the second half, again, that was a long drive, scoring drive for them. Those are the things that you hope you can get fixed for the next week.
All right, Coach, we'll take a quick break. Back after this with more of the Mike Frederick Show on 1490 WBCB, presented by ARIA Health.
The ARIA 3B Orthopedic Institute is redefining care in Center City and South Jersey. And our 50,000 square foot location on ARIA Health's Bucks campus in Langhorne features private rooms, free parking, and nearby hotels. With over a century of experience, the world-class 3Bs, Doctors Booth, Bartolozzi, Balderston, and their partners personally guide you from treatment through recovery. For all your orthopedic needs, call 1-888-ORTHO-3B or visit aria3bortho.org. At the ARIA 3B Orthopedic Institute, you come first.
If you are looking for a car, where do you go? Faulkner Auto Group at 4427 Street Road in Trevose is where to go for the best deals in Bucks County for all your new pre-owned cars, trucks, or SUVs. Go to Faulkner Auto Group. It's always Faulkner, to be sure. Go online to faulknerautogroup.com. Just remember, it's Faulkner, to be sure, for all your new cars or trucks. 4427 Street Road in Trevose. Faulkner, to be sure.
Welcome back to the Mike Frederick Show, presented by 1490 WBCB and ARIA Health. I'm Sean Lerman, along with head coach of the Neshaminy Redskins, Mike Frederick. Now, Coach, let's look ahead to this coming week's game. A short week this week as you guys get set for CB South. How do you prepare as a coach when you're used to having the extra day, but now you're shortened by one day here? How does that affect your game planning over the course of the week?
So it's all an implementation. As far as coaches were concerned, our staff being quite familiar with CB South, those guys were ready to go. So as far as the coaching staff and our game plan and what we wanted to do, that wasn't a problem. I think the short week, also being at home, all of that is beneficial. Both teams have to do the same thing. They were playing at the same time we were last Friday night as well. So what we decided was the determination of doing a couple of split practices this week, as opposed to trying to force the extra day into Saturday. And that was a decision that I made, you know, based upon what Neshaminy has done historically in the past in short weeks, and, you know, had good results from that. Implementation is the big issue. You've got a lot to get in and not a lot of time. So, you know, obviously, game planning this week, they have a real special player in their backfield that I keep forgetting his name, but I'm kidding. Obviously, he's a very, very talented special kid, and a lot of the game planning will be, you know, revolving around how we can limit the damage that he can do. On the other side of the ball, you know, they tend to run a typical 4-3 system that we've seen a couple of times now. They do mix up the coverages a little bit more, so we've had to address that. So a little bit more work on the coverage side than the front and what we're going to do in the running game side of it. So overall, it's the same for both teams. Maybe you don't put in as much as you would in a normal game week, but we've certainly gotten the work done, and today should be a cleanup day, the day before, and we should be sharp, and you know, we should certainly be fresh and ready to go come game time.
You talk about their 4-3 defense. Do you expect them to come with a lot of blitz packages, or do they generally just rush forward and drop most players back into coverage?
They'll send an occasional blitz. It tends to be what we would consider a one-man blitz or a one-man dog, or however you want to. But they tend to be really solid. The guys are where they're supposed to be. They don't take a lot of risks, but they're they're very technically sound across the front. The different looks we'll get in the back is they're going to run a lot more of what you would consider a quarters coverage or a 4 deep, and we haven't seen much of that this season. So that's where our routes, our timing, Mason Jones and his recognition of that is going to be vital this week. Obviously we still hope to be able to get DeAndre on track and get him on target, which should help Mason have to alleviate some of what he has to determine on the back end.
For CB South on the offensive side of the ball, obviously they're going to go to that run game a lot. What sort of things do you see out of them in the passing game?
Well, they do a nice job, and part of it is because when you've got a kid that's committed to Notre Dame, and he's he's a 6'2", 6'3", 210, 215 pound a guy with great speed, right? It helps. I think we've learned that as well. I mean, you've got to pick what you're going to give up when you play against them. So, they do a nice job because they hit their marks. They run really nice smash routes. They hit the corners. They've got a capable quarterback who has some solid receivers. That being said, you certainly would prefer them to try to beat you throwing the ball because Josh Adams is a special player. I mean, he's we're gonna try a number of different things to try to take away what he can do to hurt us. We're gonna have to fly to the ball. We're gonna have to gang tackle. We're not gonna be able to assume that one person's gonna be able to get him down. We're gonna have to vary our fronts, and then we're gonna need support coming from the secondary, because if he were to break through, they're gonna have to get him on the ground and allow us to line up and try to get after him the next play.
I do want to go back to last week's game really quick here, because there was a player that I forgot to ask about in the first segment, and he probably doesn't get a lot of recognition over the course of the season, but he had an outstanding game, and that's your punter, Kevin Getz. Was just phenomenal, I thought, in that last game.
Yeah, Kevin's done a nice job. He really has come a long way in a short period of time. We were short a punter heading into the season. Our best punting prospect is Trevor Lay, who's also our long snapper. And what we found was that if we could find somebody like Kevin who could pick it up quickly, it'd be most beneficial for us to implement, Trevor as the snapper and Kevin as the kicker. He's done a good job with some high snaps. He's gotten the ball off. He's progressively gotten better with, how he's handled kicking the ball. The ball's really starting to jump off his foot. I wish we had him for another year, that's for sure. But he did a nice job. He got us out of some deeper situations. They had very few returns. Typically a good hang time, and I forget what his average was, but it was for a high school game. He had a heck of a football game.
All right, Coach. Now, before we get going here, I do want to talk to you. When we did the show last week, afterwards we were having a little chat, and you mentioned an event that you guys had a couple of weeks ago where you had some special needs students come in and the team worked with them. Can you just talk about that event a little bit?
Yeah, it's actually not our event, but the Bucks County Challenger program has been going on for 7 or 8 years, and it was founded by Coach Schmidt and his wife, and they've gotten a number of schools involved. I mean, there's 5 or 6 of our local schools that'll come out and send players, and what we'll do is, they'll buddy them up with a special needs kid of really all ages. I mean, my daughters were out there running around with some kids that were 5, 6 years old, and all the way up to high school age kids, and they come out and the Challenger kids play flag football. They do a lot of skills events, and they buddy up with that player for the season. There were kids here from Pennsbury. It's been opened up to Egan, Truman. There were kids here from Bristol and Tenet. It's just continuing to grow, and for me, I brought my whole family. It's one of those things where our kids as players get more out of it sometimes than their buddies that they're buddied up with, and I know it's not technically drawn up to work that way, but what you see is the love for the game, the love for life, just the joy that comes from being able to kick a ball through an upright or pass it into a net. Sometimes we get lost on because we're working so hard to achieve these goals that you can lose some of the joy in the game. And these kids they're special kids, and I feel fortunate that the Schmidt family helped get it up and running. Guy used to coach here, Bob Wargo, years ago, and Coach Lee. They both coached here back in the 90s. They helped facilitate that program, and boy, we just hope it grows and more kids get involved, more of our kids get involved, more schools get involved, because again, at the end of the day, it's more about life than it is football, and it's terrific.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time, and good luck tomorrow against CV South.
Thank you, sir.
This has been the Mike Frederick Show, presented by 1490 WBCB and ARIA Health.